Can we test for God's existence scientifically? Hi everyone, I'm John Stokes. Welcome to another adventure spelunking through my mind's dark depths. I've debated a handful of atheists and watched a number of debates between theists and atheists. Several times the atheist will claim there is no evidence for God's existence. That statement is demonstrably false because we can point to philosophical arguments like the teleological, ontological, or cosmological arguments for God's existence. We can point to historical correlation of unnatural phenomena recorded in the Bible or other books. What I've come to believe atheists mean by that statement is that there's no empirical, scientific evidence for God's existence. And they're right, but they're also making a category error, which is a logical fallacy. It's like they want to combine A and B in a test tube, heat to 100 degrees, and God pops out. Every time. Yes, believing you can test God scientifically really is that absurd. This is a similar attitude to so-called health and wealth theology that treats God like a genie. If I pray for it, I'm guaranteed to get it. If I donate this amount, I'll get 10 times as much back. Those schemes usually end in disappointment. It's not possible to test God scientifically, and here's why. Science relies on observational consistency. The first problem is observation. God exists outside time and space. Since He is spirit, He is not bound by matter and energy, and God is infinite. How are finite humans going to leverage matter, perhaps in the form of microscopes, and energy, perhaps in the form of lasers, to observe a being that is non-physical, non-energetic, greater than our finite scope and outside our observable universe? We can barely detect neutrinos. We couldn't detect gravitational waves until 2015. It's illogical to think we can detect a spirit the magnitude of God. But, you may object, we can detect what He does if He does anything. True, but this is where the challenge of consistency comes in. As systems become more complex, they become harder to observe and test. A rock is easier to test than an amoeba. And an amoeba is easier to test than a bird. Nonetheless, these entities all behave within certain constraints, which makes them testable. Even humans, in our psychological complexity, are constrained. We're trapped by gravity. We require food, water, and oxygen. Even our imaginations are limited to a handful of mathematical dimensions. God is the freest, most complex entity in existence. Of all intelligent beings, He has the most options and the most flexibility. His only limitation is that He can't deny His own character. This means He has no requirement to act in what we perceive as a consistent manner. We see this inconsistency in how Jesus healed the blind. He never did it the same way twice. In one case, He made mud and put it on the blind man's eyes. In another, He rubbed saliva on the man's eyes twice. In yet another case, He touched two men's eyes, and in still another, He merely spoke to the man. God is under no obligation to act in the consistent manner scientific inquiry requires. That's not to say God cannot choose to act in a manner consistent enough for scientific inquiry. When we consider the Israelites wandering in the desert, there was the consistent presence of the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. There was manna on the ground for them to eat every morning. Gideon tested God by asking him to wet fleece with the morning dew, but not the ground around it, and God agreed. So God can act in a scientifically testable manner, but He is free to do so or not, as long as it conforms to His nature. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I do offer professional voiceover services if you need that sort of thing. Thanks again.